Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We are going to start today's video with an update to the bald hornet's nest. My wife was walking down the pathway this morning to do her chickens, and she noticed some crumbled up bits of nest down here. Inside the nest here, you can see larvae moving about. We went over to check out what is going on, and we noticed that the bald-faced hornet's nest is missing, and it's on the ground down here. So there it is. The nest is being knocked down, and I think a lot of it's being eaten. There's still a few wasps buzzing around here, but not many. And there's the remains of the nest under the tarp there. I'm getting out of here because there's wasps buzzing around. But yeah, it's definitely being attacked. So I think it's probably been a raccoon or a skunk that got in there, ate all the larvae, and had a delicious meal. I don't know how they survive being swarmed by like 300 or 400 bald-faced hornets, but somehow an animal got in there and destroyed the nest and ate everything. So I'm kind of sad for the hornets, but I'm happy for the backyard. I did get stung twice just walking by here. They kind of attack you and sting you. So yeah, so that's the end of the bald-faced hornets in our backyard. Before we get started on today's video, I just want to show you my Ficus religiosa in the greenhouse here. And I wanted to show you the new growth on it, and it's right here. See how red it is? It's just amazing. You can see some here too, and up here. It kind of goes from this, what color, scarlet red to, the green color, the dark green eventually. It's almost the color of the bougainvillea flowers. Yeah, so I just thought I'd show you that. It's really nice seeing new growth come out on these Ficus religiosas. It can make a tree quite colorful. Another tree that has colorful new growth is my Ficus elastica. And you can see the new red shoots coming out here. Here, over there. It also looks really colorful when it's when the new growth is happening. Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's like an added bonus to growing bonsai. My second hibiscus flower is out now. This is day 2 of it, so it's kind of faded to an orangey color. You can see the new one's red, and I just noticed a Japanese beetle on the inside there, and they'll eat the flowers, so I've got to get rid of that, feed it to the chickens. The truck is running just fantastic. I've got several loads of wood chips now for our gardens and the community gardens. A real workhorse. The tailgate is working perfectly now. The bed's nice and solid, so really happy with the truck. A few videos ago, I showed you Jacob in Hawaii, and he was collecting Baobab seed pods off the trees, and they finally came in the mail yesterday, so I'll open them up and show you what they look like. There you go. All right, here they are. Oh, look at that. Wow, they're fuzzy. I've seen these in lots of pictures hanging off Baobab trees, but I've never touched one in real life, and it's quite an experience. It's really awesome. You can see there's starting to be a crack opening up on this one, which means as it dries, it'll split open and the seeds will probably fall out. I've never opened one, so we'll do that today. I'll just get all the seed pods out. There's more than one of them. There's the top of them. There's another smaller one. And another larger one. Wow, that's amazing. It's like velvet. Really cool. So those are Baobab seed pods. I think we'll open the largest one. It already has a crack running down it, so we'll just try and pry that open. All right, here I go. I've got it like a butter knife. I'll stick it in the crack and we'll... This is really cool. I've never had seeds sent to me that, you know, I've had a video where they're collected right off the tree. I think this is a first, and it's really cool to know the total history of where your seeds came from. Okay, there we are. Hopefully there's some seeds in here. So there is the insides of the Baobab seed pod. So there's a, I think this is like the pulp of the fruit. And I'm pretty sure it's edible, but I'm not going to eat it yet until I look it up. Which is always a wise thing to do. Now, if there are seeds, they'll be inside here, I believe. And there is the seed right there. I don't know if you can see that. So inside that kind of pulpy flesh, which is dried out, smells good, is the seed. And I can see sort of a kidney-shaped seed in there. It's not a really big one, but it looks mature. I'm just trying to get all this pulp off it. There it is. It's definitely a kidney-shaped seed. Yeah, that's really cool. It looks like all the parts of the Baobab are edible. The leaves on the tree, the fleshy stuff in here. It said that it tastes kind of like a citrusy taste. So here I go. It is a nice taste. Creamy. Yeah, it's quite good. And I'm left with the seed after. So, good way of separating the seeds is just chew away on it. Kind of nice tasting something brand new in your life. It's it's amazing to find a new flavor you've never had before, and one that you like. I really like it. Wow, that is really good. And there's my seed. That is awesome. I really like it. Thanks, Jacob, for sending me these seed pods. It's just awesome. It made my day. I've got 4 seeds extracted so far, and I am really enjoying the taste of these Baobab, of this pulp. It's just fantastic. I love it. If you could buy this in a store, I'd buy it. Yeah, it's really, really good. I am really going to enjoy getting all these seeds out of the pods. My plan with these seeds is to get them extracted from the pods this fall, and I'm going to keep them nice and dry, and I'll overwinter them in the house, and then I'll plant them in early summer. If I planted them now, I don't think there's enough heat and light to, you know, get them started before winter hits. I think they would just start growing, and then winter would come and they would probably not make it through the winter. So I'm going to save all the seeds and then plant them, you know, late spring when it's nice and warm and it's getting sunny out. And that way they can grow all over, you know, all through the summer. And by fall, you know, the leaves will start dropping off and I can overwinter them. So that's my plan. That's, so I am going to spend the next maybe hour eating baobab pulp and extracting the seeds. So good. It's just so good. Here's a last look at the seed pod up close. You can see all the pulp in there. So there's the seeds I have so far, and they're a good size. They're about the same size as the ones Tom sent me. So I think they'll do well. I think, you know, I'll split the coating next year, soak them, and get them going. And I'm sure with all these seed pods, I've got 4 of them, that something will germinate. I had lunch, and I finished eating the baobab, you know, the fruit, and it was really, really good. I enjoyed it. And here's all the seeds I got from the one pod. This was the largest pod. And I counted them, and there's about 45 seeds that I got. Some of them are kind of, I don't know if it's a double seed or what it is, but they're a little bit strange looking. But yeah, 45 seeds from one pod. And I had an excellent dessert. It was just awesome. Really enjoyed it. Let's look at the 2 baobabs that germinated from the seeds that Tom sent me. So here they are in the greenhouse. And there they are. So the one is doing better than the other. The other, the true leaves are starting to come out the side here. And this one has got some good leaves. They're kind of wrinkly. I don't know what's the cause of that. It may be the cool weather, maybe too much heat in the greenhouse here. I don't know, but they should sort themselves out. So I hope they're strong enough to make it through the winter. I would rather them be a little taller and a little healthier looking, but I'll do my best. I'll, you know, try and get them through the winter. No watering, try and keep them warm and dry, and see how they do. Behind my baobab seedlings here is the tree I'll be working on today, and that's my willow leaf ficus, and it's grown really, really, really well. I've got the willow leaf ficus out on the bench here. Let's go have a look at it. It was just under a year ago that I did the severe root pruning down here, and I did a lot of quite severe top pruning to the tree. It's recovered really nicely. It's really full and looks vigorous and healthy. There's a few yellow leaves in the interior here that are just, you know, they're older leaves that are starting to get a bit shaded out, and so it definitely needs a pruning. It's this is kind of the stage where a ficus needs pruning, where it starts getting too bushy, too long, and out of shape. It's got lots of vigor in the tree, so it's, yeah, this is the perfect time. You don't want to prune them when they're weak looking and, you know, don't have a lot of foliage on them. They've got to be strong and healthy like this. My biggest question today is, do I root prune it once again? Usually the root growth reflects the top growth on the tree, and you can see it's really vigorous up here and it's grown a lot. So generally that means the roots have grown equally as well. So not only am I going to be top pruning this tree today, but I'll also be root pruning it and repotting it. A nice root system on a ficus doesn't just grow by itself. It's got to be worked on a lot. Ficus tend to get those big bulbous potato-like roots, so you need to keep up with the root pruning and the root selection to get a nice root base on a ficus. I'm going to start today by pruning the top of the tree, getting that nice umbrella shaped to the canopy. That's typical of a mature ficus. I'm looking at the tree now, and I'll place my hand over top, trying to see what shape canopy I want, whereabouts I want to prune it. Probably somewhere there, I would think. A ficus, you can make the canopy any shape. It's just, Generally, the older a ficus gets, they tend to flatten out on top as the tree, spreads out, drops aerial roots, and the branches get longer, and you get a flatter top on top. When the tree's younger, it tends to be more ball-shaped like this, or spherical. So, I don't know, this one, it doesn't look like a really old tree, so I might be better to make it a little more of a rounded shape rather than, flattening it out too much. Yeah, so as the tree matures, I think I'll slowly get that more of an umbrella shape than a spherical shape. But I think for today, I think it's going to be more that kind of shape. I've got my long scissors, and I'll start with a profile prune. And this prune cuts through leaves, and it just cuts through everything, gets the tree to a specific profile, and then you can go in and further prune it to a leaf that's fanning outwards, doing some directional pruning, refining the pruning technique. So this just roughly gets it to shape initially, because you don't want to develop anything out of the profile at this time. There's exceptions. You may want to eventually develop a branch thicker, so you might let it grow longer than the rest of the branches to kind of balance the tree. But for now, a profile prune will get the tree back roughly into shape. So here I go. And keep in mind that this type of pruning is a technique. It's not the only technique. It's one technique you can use. So that's getting more rounded and better looking. So I'm rounding it side to side and front to back. I'll come out front and have a look at it. All right, a little more up here. I think that's looking quite good. It's roughly to shape. I think I could even it up a little bit. Take a bit more off here. I think that'll do it. The profile pruning got the canopy roughly to shape. Now this is the shape that I want it to be. So as soon as it starts growing, it'll get larger. So the next thing I want to do is go in with my scissors and snip back each branch about this long, take that much off of it, and using directional pruning. So I'll do that now. So I'm just coming in and picking a leaf that's facing outwards and pruning just above it. And this will tidy up all the leaves that I cut through. Any of the branches that didn't get pruned by the profile pruning, I'm just taking the tip off them to get more ramification or more branching from the end of that one growing tip. So every time you prune the tip off a branch, it usually divides into 2 or 3 more branches. That's always the plan anyway. The tree's slowly looking better. My next step is to come in above and remove any branches that are growing in towards the interior of the tree. So I want all my branches fanning outwards. I don't want them all kind of crisscrossing and cluttered up on the interior of the canopy. So I'll come in and prune all those crisscrossing branches off now. I'm just looking for those branches now. Here's one here that can be removed entirely. It's growing in towards the center of the tree. There's another one here. I'm also looking if there's more than 2 branches, if the branch isn't bifurcating, it's dividing from 1 into 3, I'll remove the 1 branch. So everything divides from 1 into 2. So at the center of the tree, all the branches should grow vertically. And then as you get towards the outer of the canopy, they'll start fanning out, just like my hand here. You could defoliate the tree, but I'm going to try and keep the tree strong, so I'm not going to defoliate it. It's not going in a show or anything, so there's no reason to weaken the tree by defoliating it. And I'm always looking for the nicest flowing branches. So ones that, you know, divide and smoothly flow into the other branches. You don't want awkward angles in that to your branch structure. Otherwise, it just doesn't look beautiful. It kind of looks more angular. And, you know, you might want that style for some trees, but for most deciduous trees and tropical trees, you want your branches to flow nice and smoothly to make a graceful looking tree. So it's just a matter of looking at each branch and following it from the trunk, following the branch up, and then, you know, resolving the issues with each branch one at a time. Always picking your best branches and removing the not so desirable ones. And eventually, you keep doing this and all you're left with is good looking branches. So here I've got one branch dividing into three, actually four, so I've got to pick which branches I'm keeping and which ones I'm removing. So I'm going to remove this top one here, and I'm going to remove the one going towards the back because there's already another branch down below. And then I've got one here I can remove and one in here. So just cleaning up the branches one at a time. And if you feel you've made the wrong choice in a branch, don't worry, you'll get new branches grow in, and over time you can correct any perceived mistakes you have. Another technique, you can take the major trunk lines, follow them up, see what's attached to each major branch or trunk, and you know that has to get light. So if there's branches overshadowing it, you can prune them back. So like this one's getting kind of long here, so I'll take that off shorter. This one too. Just so it's not overlapping over top of another branch. You want each branch to get light. And I've got a large branch at the back here. So everything here is attached to that larger branch. So just clearing it out a bit to thin it. It's a little dense in here. It's starting to look a little more open in the top now. You can see some of the branch structure. It's not quite as thick and dense up top here. Okay, I think that's not bad. You don't have to get your tree looking perfect in one session. You can, you know, always come back the next day and go, I should take this back a little more, or, you know, adjust things. I can see a little more of the branch structure. Now, there's a lot of little branches that have suckered up from the base. I'll go in and clean those up. If I wanted to have branches develop down low, then I would keep these little suckers and develop them into branches. But I've got my major trunk division starting up here, so I don't want smaller branches below kind of cluttering up the trunk. So I'll prune them off. Another one here. There's one I'll keep here. It's in a fairly good spot. So I'm just going up the trunk line, cleaning out any small branches that have formed off the trunk, little suckers on that. Just keeping my major branching. I'm out front having a look at the tree now. It's looking better. You can see the trunk lines more and the branch structure. It's not so like a ball of foliage on top. I think I've got to take a little bit off of here. I think that looks a little better. I don't want it too symmetrical, this tree, so I'm kind of on purpose making it a little asymmetrical, so it's longer on this left-hand side and shorter over here. All right, I think I've got the top of the tree in pretty good shape. It's looking quite nice. It's a lot lower and looks more tree-like. So the next step is repotting. I'll take the tree out of the pot now. So here I go. Like that. So it's crumbly here. It's not a solid brick of roots, which shows it definitely health-wise didn't need repotting. But I'm not repotting it for the health of the tree. I'm repotting it to further improve the look of the roots. I'm going to start raking out the roots now. So starting in the center, raking outwards. I did a lot of major root surgery last time I repotted this tree, cutting off almost all the roots. There were a lot of really large bulbous roots. So it'll be interesting to see what's happened with the root system, what I'm left with. So it looks like it's doing quite well. There's roots all the way around the root base. Some are still quite fine. Okay, I'll turn the tree upside down now, and I'll start working on the bottom of the root base. I'm being careful to keep the branches off the end of the bench. There's my screen in the bottom. It was a large one-piece screen. I'll try and get that out in one piece. There, I can reuse that. And now I can start combing out the bottom of the root base. Here's the bottom where I cut the roots off, and that will eventually heal over. It'll scar over, and it won't cause any rotting up the trunk. If you do it too late in life, when the trunk's too thick, it won't have time to heal over, and you might get, you know, some rotting up the trunk and a hollow trunk. But this tree's fairly young, and that'll heal over nicely. Okay, I've got all the roots combed out, and I think I'm ready to wash the root base now. I finished washing the roots on the tree, so let's go in and have a look at them. I'll start by combing them out, getting them all nice and radial. So my first thoughts, for the amount of top growth I got, I didn't get a whole lot of root growth. I was expecting more, actually. So looking at this tree, I probably could have gone another year without doing any root pruning, because there's no roots that have gone wildly out of control and thickened up. So, but I will do some correction. There are some that can be pruned away and some that can be fixed up, so we'll do that today. I've sprayed down my turntable, and I'll put the tree on it. I can start the root pruning, keeping the roots misted so they don't dry out. There's a root that's coming out too high up here. I'll get rid of that. Like that. There's a root that's kind of sticking out here in between these other two. Doesn't look so good, so I'm going to remove that. Like that. So that looks better in that place. There's one sticking up here I can get rid of. There's two that are crossed here. I'll untangle those. Like that. There's one sticking straight up here. It's in a good place, so I think it'll eventually go down into the soil and pull tight. I think that one's okay. Everything in this area is looking okay. This one root here is not very radial. It should be coming out this direction, and it's kind of off to this side, so I don't know if there's much I can do about it. There's another funny looking root coming down here, which isn't good at all. I'm going to have to... My root base is kind of here, and it doesn't flow into the soil. It kind of comes up and then down, so that's going to have to be removed. So I'll come in, I'll try and isolate that root. Maybe I can just break it off. Yeah, I can't. Just break it off. It was only hanging on by a thread. So that solves that problem. So this one now, maybe I can bend it in a more radial pattern. I think I can. Kind of position it more down here now that that other root's gone. Yeah, that looks much better now. I like that. And going around, some good roots coming here. There's problem area here. I've got one root that kind of goes down, and it kind of undertucks underneath the root base. There's not much growing from that. And then I've got another one that I've sawed off here. I got a root growing out here, which is good. So I don't think I can do much in this area. It's possible a root may develop out in this direction, so I'm not going to do anything with this undercut root for the moment, but next time I repot it, we'll keep our eyes on it and see if anything's developed there. I could kind of scratch the surface here a bit. It might help promote a root in that area if I do that. So yeah, it might promote some roots coming out here, so we'll see. That's about it for the root base. The only other thing I want to do is balance the root system. I've got some really vigorous ones coming out here, and I just want to prune them back a bit. So keeping them, you know, so it all grows out evenly. You don't want one root getting too vigorous compared to the others. And that's about it. The roots are pruned. All right, it's time to put the tree back in the pot. So I've got the pot ready. I just need to put a base layer of soil on the bottom. So here I go. And this is perlite, turfus, and there might be a bit of the pumice in here too. It's new soil, but I added a bit of used soil to it. So it's mostly new soil, but not totally, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's my base layer. Now I'll place the tree in. We'll see how high it is. I've got to find the front of the tree, which is somewhere about here. I need to get the tree to the right height in the pot, and that's about as low as I can get it, so that'll have to do. I had it a little too far offset last time, so I'm going to place the tree a little more on center. So I think there is a good location. I've got some roots front and back that kind of are a little long. I'll prune those back a bit, just so they're not hitting the lip of the pot already. That way they don't start to curl around the pot quite yet. Okay, so the tree's in there quite nicely now. I can start adding my soil. I'm taking one last look at the tree to see if it's in the pot exactly how I want it. Yep, that's looking good. So I'll start adding my soil now. And there was a root I wanted to make sure was going in a better direction, and it is. So I'm just adding a little bit of soil, and I'll work that into the root base here, filling up all those voids. So I can start to add a little more soil and keep working it into the root base. I don't have to pile the soil up quite so much this time because I know all those new roots are safely in the soil. So I can expose a little bit more of the root base, which is kind of nice. All right, I think it's ready for its first watering. I'll just mist the tree and the surface of the soil first. And then I can come in with the watering can. All right, here I go with the water now. And this is just rainwater. There's no fertilizer in it. But I will start fertilizing it tomorrow with a very, very dilute amount of 20-20-20. And I think that is good. It's flowing out really nicely. The willow leaf ficus is all repotted and ready to grow once again for at least another year or two in this pot. So I didn't really need to repot it this time. I did some corrective root work, which is good, but it definitely could have gone another year without any root work or repotting, but it doesn't hurt it. These ficuses, they actually like new soil. They tend to grow really vigorously after you've repotted them. They just like all that new soil with all those spaces between the soil. So aftercare is critical, as always, with the newly repotted tree. So I'll keep misting this several times a day. Like whenever I notice the leaves don't have water droplets on them, I'll mist the tree again, keeping it, you know, pretty wet throughout the day. Keeping the soil moist at all times, giving it good light, high humidity. I'll probably put this one in the greenhouse. And yeah, it should recover quite nicely. My willow leaf ficus is looking good, ready to grow. So now it's time for today's updates. My first update for today is the peperomias that Ross gave to me, and they're doing really, really nicely. You can see when I first got them, the leaves were kind of a sort of a faded green color, but now they're just coming up a really lush green color, looking really good. Now, this will probably be an accent plant for another tree, so that's one thing I've been meaning to do, is grow more accent plants. So I've got this one. I've got this beautiful fern that just grew in one of my bonsai pots all by itself. And it's really nice looking. It would make a nice little companion planting to a bonsai tree at a show. I've got a pot full of weeds here, and you can see they're starting to get a little bit of fall colors on them and some sort of insignificant flowers on them. So if you were in a fall show, this would make a nice little accent plant beside your bonsai. I've got my pineapple weed here, or I think it's called wild chamomile. And even though the pot isn't as full as it was last year, it represents the season with those dead weed stalks sticking up out of the pot, the faded flowers. Yeah, so it could represent the time of the year quite nicely. I've got another common weed here. It's more of a ground cover type weed. It just kind of grows along the surface of the soil, and it gets these sort of insignificant flowers too. So I don't know, it doesn't look very good at the moment, but maybe with some top dressing of the soil, it could look good as a companion plant. Accent plants can be small trees too. Here's a small cedar tree. So you could put that beside a bonsai in a show. Quite often I find little pots like these in the thrift stores, and they're fantastic for planting your accent plants in. And accent plants can be anything. It can be moss, it can be weeds, anything that's kind of natural, and they should represent the season. So in spring you might have little ferns with their fiddleheads poking out. In fall you might have a plant with nice fall colors or berries or flowers. So yeah, the purpose of the accent plant is to convey the location of the tree, where it naturally lives, the habitat, and also the season. So, you know, if you had a pine tree that grows in the mountains, you might want an alpine plant as an accent plant. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone. And she noticed in the pathway there was some crumbled up bits of wasps' nests. I can't say wasp's nest. I can't say it. Before we get started on today's as the tree matures, I think, you know, I'll work on flattening the canopy out, getting that umbrella more of the accent plants can be little trees too. So here's a what is it? Cedar. Can't think.